Charlotte, that's right. You see Charlotte in there? All right, so sometimes people experience low back pain, and it's not always the low back that's the issue. Often the glutes and the surrounding muscles can make the low back feel very uncomfortable, and it will feel stiff. You'll have difficulty bending over and getting into things. So sometimes it's actually more beneficial to roll the glutes than to stretch the low back, but it doesn't hurt to do both in combination. So a few things that you can do when rolling the glutes. If you think of the glutes, a lot of people think of down here, kind of the shape of the bum, but the glutes actually attach high. It's okay, boo-boo, mommy's just talking. Yeah, it's okay. And so the glutes attach all the way to the top of the pelvis. So we need to think about this area when we're rolling. So I like to think of it as 3 sections working down the glutes. So typically, I always start at the top. I'm just going to turn around there, boo-boo. And I'm going to put it, so I actually think of it as 9 sections. We've got our 3 lines, and then I divide each line into 3 sections. So I always start on the outside. And I'm going to put that ball right in there. And for me, that immediately is a trigger point. And I feel it into the glute and down the leg. And I just kind of roll back and forth, pressing into that area. So making sure that you're never holding your breath, that you're breathing into your belly, and you're just kind of working into it. Always remember that you control the pressure. So if it's painful, decrease how much you're pushing into that ball. And then I'm going to slowly work across those sections. So now I'm in section 2 of that top line. And again, I'm just kind of doing little back and forths across that area. And then you can spend as much time as you want in each section. Down there with your ball. And then now I'm on to section 3. So this area is kind of around the bony part of my pelvis, like I feel my sacrum. Some people have to be careful about rolling directly on the edge of the sacrum. That can be an irritant. So if you find it very painful, don't do it. If it just feels tender muscularly, that's okay. We just don't want to cause any pain. So often I work across, and then I actually go along that line back and forth a couple times. And then I'm going to move down. So I'm now in line 3. And again, I'm just kind of doing little back and forth. Now, typically outside of a video, I would spend a little more time in here, waiting for the sensations to decrease. So that tenderness that you feel, stick around in that area for a while until it's softened so that it's not so intense. I moved into section 2 on line 2. And that area is typically, for me, right around that piriformis area, so it is quite tender, which makes sense for a lot of people, especially if they experience some sciatic pain. Some of the sciatic pain is due to the piriformis being so tight, so really working in there. And then again, working across. So now I'm in section 3 on line 2. So think of it as a grid, a 3x3 grid. And it's probably tenderness is different in each spot. So I'm going to go down to the bottom line. So now I'm at the bottom of my glute. Sometimes a little tricky to keep that ball against the wall. So you might find that you are bending over and you're going to feel a little bit into the hamstring because the hamstring also inserts onto the sit bone, which the glutes also. So there's overlapping of muscles. And so you're going to feel it in various places, and what's tight and tender is going to be affected. Woohoo, right? So the other part about rolling the glutes, I've done my 9 sections. Now if we think about the pelvis, the glutes attach to the top of the back of the pelvis. Now we've also got our quadratus lumborum, our QL, which also attach to the top of the pelvis. So what I like to do is I like to take the ball and put it right on the very edge of my pelvis. And I call this stripping. And I'm now going to roll that ball right along the top edge of my pelvis. And I'm just trying to really dig it in. So I'm slowly turning. And sometimes you have to adjust because the ball moves. And you can actually go all the way around to the front and dig it into the front. And I like to do that one a couple times. So again, I'm on the top of the pelvis and I'm rolling that ball so that it goes across the top. And I'm just kind of stripping the fibers across there. So the overlapping of the glutes and the low back get attention. And then at that point, anything that you feel like needs a little more attention, so often for me, that side of the hip, I like to kind of just be kind of line to that first square. I like to spend a lot more time there because that tends to be a tender area. And that's often a tender area because people pop their hip out. So we're standing with our hip popped out, which is kind of straining that area, so kind of getting in there. And then it doesn't hurt to do figure 4 after this or a low back stretch after this. And that's rolling your glutes for you.